Monday to everyone out there. Merry Christmas. This is the Christmas episode of the Top of Wrestling podcast. I am Professor Youngblood, and joining me today, as always, we have Mr. ODM.
Whoa, what a rush!
Ooh, Hawk is with us today.
Yeah, I did. I had to
Merry
take a
Christmas,
little.
Hawk.
Yeah, I couldn't. Thank you very much, Professor. I couldn't. Feel like the last two have been pretty obvious ones. I wanted to dive a little deeper this week.
That one sounded like you were pushing something out.
Yeah, I am recording this in the bathroom. Convenience thing.
Excellent acoustics. I appreciate that. That's what we're doing. We bring you nothing but the best production here with our podcast. We want to thank everyone who listened to our very first episode last week, the pilot episode, which was the top 50 stables. We got a little lengthy, more than we anticipated, but a lot of views on YouTube. We could not appreciate it anymore, but we will each and every week as you guys keep joining us. This week, we are going to be talking about the top and, well, worse of 2019. Unfortunately, there was probably a lot more worse than there was top moments, but I think that we'll be able to go over quite a good amount of great moments that happened for sure. Some of my favorite moments, actually, that I would call all-time favorites that happened in 2019. So I'm pretty excited about it. Any news that you want to bring to the table for us this week, ODM?
Well, I guess we could start with the fact that the Young Bucks deleted their Twitter account. It's a pretty big one.
They sure did. Why did they delete their Twitter account? Or what do you think the reason is that they deleted it?
I think it's a pretty straightforward one. I think it's because they're starting to realize that running a business is not the same as just having a fun indie show with all your friends. I know that sounds maybe a little overly critical, but the fact of the matter is, with the star power and the money that they have behind them, their production values aside, they're really starting to fall, and it's going to take a lot to keep up with NXT.
I absolutely agree, and that's funny because that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today is, the Wednesday Night War, as the fans mainly dubbed it. It was not actually named that by any of the wrestling executives, if you will. It's just the fans wanted it to become a war, and unfortunately, I think it's fallen a little more flat than we anticipated. One of the big things that did happen this week that I think would have given the Bucks a reason to kind of call it the major quits on Twitter is this past week on Dynamite, at the end of the episode, the Dark Order came out and attacked several of the wrestlers, and Dustin Rhodes being one of them. And one of the masked wrestlers was really, really wailing on Dustin's not anything. Actually, he was wailing on the mat.
On the mat, or the air.
And of course, that made the rounds across, Instagram, Twitter, everything. Everybody has watched this guy, unfortunately, just keep punching the mat. And Dustin himself even called it out and said, I run a school each week. Please come to my training class and I'll show you how to throw a real punch. But you had mentioned earlier a couple people had also chimed in. Who else got involved?
Well, I'm going to leave one for you because I know you're going to be excited to talk about it. Randy Orton piled in, and he was piggybacking off somebody's tweet. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Tama Tonga, or it might have been, actually, I think it was Dustin's. And Orton called him the drizzling shits. So, yeah, I think that about sums it up. Orton has a history of not holding back on Twitter. It's actually rather amusing. He's a kind of bit of a troll as well. But for him, this one didn't seem like he was trolling or trying to be funny. This sounded legitimate, like, no, you really suck that bad. Rumor is that it was Enzo Amore under the mask.
And that's what Tama Tonga said, is that it was Enzo Amore. And everybody knows that they have a horrible but awesome feud going on with each other. It's not wrestling based, it's not storyline based, it's real life feud that Tama Tonga has said he felt that Enzo is a cancer to the wrestling business. I can't say that I, 100% disagree. I actually really at first liked Enzo. I thought he was great on the mic, but I think that the fame and power, or whatever you want to call it, or all the money went to his head because all of a sudden he thought he was the only reason people were tuning in to Monday Night Raw. Guess what? No one tunes into Monday Night Raw. So I like that he actually made that joke, and him and Tama Tonga have gone back and forth, a lot of jabs. I would actually love to see Tama Tonga and him just meet on the streets one day. But unfortunately, I think that Enzo won't survive that one.
Yeah, he'll probably be able to run fast enough to get away.
True. But yeah, that was pretty much all that was going on in the news from this week compared to last week. Again, this is our Christmas episode, and we appreciate anybody who is listening here on Christmas Day. But of course, if you are listening the day after, we appreciate it just as much. So here we are. We are going to be talking about the best and the worst of 2019. ODM and myself have made the decision we're going to talk about 5 topics of each. And what do you think? Should we start with, let's start with worst, right? We want to end on a good note.
There you go. It works for me.
Yeah, all right.
There's so much to be critical of. Let's try to be thankful. Let's end the show on being thankful for something.
Agreed. A nice little Christmas present that we could all talk about. So let's go with number 5. ODM, I know that you're dying to talk about this one, and I'm going to let you take stage. Go ahead.
All right. Well, this may come as a surprise to some of you. Any of you that know me know that I'm a big fan of this wrestler. But unfortunately, he has to go. Number 5, worst thing of 2019, and that's Kenny Omega. It's really a tough thing it's a tough pill to swallow. But again, I'm going to give you the reasons why. Let's take a look at Omega's 2018, and then we'll compare it to what's happened this year. So Wrestle Kingdom 12, it's January 14th. Omega beat Jericho in a no DQ match, and he retained the U.S. Championship. Also keep in mind that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny Omega was the inaugural IWGP U.S. champion.
Yes, he was.
Okay. So that was January 4th. January 28th, he lost the U.S. title to Jay White at New Beginning. After the match, Page came out and confronted White, but was stopped by Omega. That brought out Cody and started that whole feud. And it was a bit of dissension among the ranks. And that was a great story in itself right there. Looking ahead to June 9th, Omega beat Okada in the 2 out of 3 falls match to win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Finally did it at Dominion.
One of my favorite matches, probably of all time. I would say in top 5, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a great match. The callbacks were plentiful and meaningful. It was a 7-star match from Meltzer. It wasn't the first time that they broke the scale, Omega and Okada. So, Omega and Cody ended up squaring off at the G1 Special in July. Omega kept the title, kept him in charge of Bullet Club. But, and you have to bear with me here, during the post-match celebration with the Bucks at the top of the ramp, if you watch Being the Elite, you could remember, I believe it was Nick Jackson, kept having these weird scanners moments where his eyes were rolling in the back of his head and he was hearing things. Well, that happened again. And that's when they were attacked by Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, and King Haku. Ever since then, they split up. At that point, they split up the Bullet Club into 2 factions, the Bullet Club and the BC Firing Squad, the Bullet Club Firing Squad, which ended up becoming Bullet Club again.
And the other one was basically, Golden Elite at the end of the day?
Pretty much. It was Golden Elite because after Omega won the championship, not only did the Young Bucks come out to celebrate, but so did Kota Ibushi. So you took the Golden Lovers and the Elite, and you had the Golden Elite. And that was short-lived. But
so he had a great 2018.
Yeah. And he had another title defense against Ishii at Destruction.
Yeah.
All right. So not a bad 2018. We're talking about Kenny Omega, the cleaner, the bout machine.
So if we were doing this podcast a year ago, he would have been at number one. Guaranteed.
He would have been at number one, absolutely. Given the quality of matches he was having with everybody, finally winning the title, the feud with Cody, and it was the best thing. I mean, it was the one thing you knew you could go to and you'd always be happy at the end of the day. All right, so let's fast forward to 2019, where AEW is formed. The shows are announced, Dynamite. So he did have Double or Nothing, his main event with Chris Jericho. A lot more to that, which we'll discuss later. So that was good. That was good. And then in June, he teamed with the Young Bucks. Not a big surprise. It's the Elite. That makes sense against the Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid at Fyter Fest. Good match.
Great match.
Yep. And then you had Moxley's main event match at that pay-per-view with Janela. Omega came out and destroyed him. I think that's when he hit him with the guitar. 2 weeks later, Omega beat Shima at Fight for the Fallen. Yeah, good match. Both good workers, obviously. They had the match that was scheduled for All Out. Moxley had to pull out. The match was with Pac, and Omega just lost. Okay? I don't. I mean, I get that's a tough one to book, but that's what you get when you have to last minute book and don't have a plan.
Sure.
Let's see. First episode of AEW Dynamite on October 2nd. Who do you think Omega fought?
Oh, man, I actually can't. Oh, is he in a 6-man?
He was in a 6-man match. 6-man tag team match. Why?
I'm okay with it.
No. It's your first episode, and you have the number one wrestler of 2018, the man who several times broke Meltzer's star rating scale. He was called the Bout Machine, and you've got him in a 6-man tag. I don't get it. And then Omega was beat by Moxley, and that story just came to an end. Now, again, I get it. I understand. It's a tough one because you don't want Moxley to look bad either. I'm okay with that. I get it.
Well, now hang on. I'm gonna jump into on that one. You have to. You said in that story just ended. Do you want AEW? And so far, I think the one thing they've proven that they haven't done that WWE does is WWE recycles the same stuff each and every week.
Sure.
For at least 2 to 3 months, you're going to see the same guys in the main event or within the same area on Raw. You could miss months worth and come back, and you haven't really missed much. So them ending the feud with Moxley and Omega the way they did with the unsanctioned match, what do you want them to do next? I mean,
it's not a matter
of all-out bloodbath. So I think Omega goes, yeah, I lost. That's it. Okay, on to the next. And I think that that's actually a smart move by AEW. However, I will agree with you. Then his booking from there, again, now he's just in more 6-mans and things like that. And he's not booked strongly when you said agreed. He is the Bout Machine. So why is it that every week we're paying attention to people on AEW that are a dinosaur, a little guy that looks like he's 7 years old? And believe me, I like all these guys, but here's the problem: is that why are you not highlighting what brought you to this program? Everybody was looking forward to Omega. The moment he was announced, the internet blew up. They're like, all right, that's what because there was an opportunity. He could have went with WWE if he really, I think, had wanted to. I think the money was on the table for him, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure. And and he's turning into a comedy act.
Yeah.
I don't want Omega as a comedy act. Now, here's another thing that you could do. All right. You can't use Bullet Club. You kind of got your power usurped and you're not in the Bullet Club anymore. You're the Elite. Why aren't we seeing the Elite as more of a stable than they are? There are times I watch Dynamite and it's like, oh yeah, Omega's on this. I forgot.
You're right, because you're thinking when Inner Circle jumps everybody, why is it always the Bucks come out, but then Cody and things like that? But you're right. Why aren't the Elite coming together as a group? I mean, how is that again another thing that brought you to the table? However, one thing I will. You said that he's a comedy act. I think these guys spent too much time with their Being the Elite YouTube show. Because it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of comedy. I get it, but
you leave it for
comedy
that.
is not what's going to work on TNT. Keep doing your stuff on YouTube. That's fine. You have AEW Dark or whatever, all their shows that they're trying to produce with AEW. That's fine. But on Dynamite, you gotta keep people watching versus watching NXT, right? Well,
Yeah.
NXT is just producing match after match. You know who the guys are. They give you a good video package. AEW, I'm seeing the same stuff over and over. So it's, yeah, I agree with you. His booking has just been, I'll even compare it to kind of, what Orton said about those punches. I'm going to say Omega's booking has been the drizzling shits.
Yep, absolutely.
So anything else you'd want to add to the worst of number 5 here?
No, I just want the cleaner back. That's all I want. Maybe 2019 or 2020 will bring that. We'll see.
What I would like to see is if you want him to have nothing but good matches and stop doing the like I like when he does the things like you can't escape, but it's all hokey. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think he needs to go back to being a heel. I think catch people by surprise, make him a heel, and then he guns for not just the title, but just anybody he wants to prove that he is the best. And then I don't know, but then you have too many heels because all your best guys right now are heels. You have Jericho, you have Pac. All those guys aren't necessarily they're the better heels. Moxley, you would think he's a heel, but he's just I don't know. I guess what we'll call him a modern day Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, tweener.
Sure. Well, I mean, if we're talking about what's been good, and especially with your heels, well, coming in at number 5 is what I find to be the most interesting thing about AEW right now, and that is Chris Jericho. At 49 years old, Chris Jericho is still stealing the show. He is still having great matches. He is still cutting great promos. I mean, very funny ones, but also ones where he is, what's the words I'm looking for? Where he is pumping up his own stable. Like he shows these are his brothers in arms. He's with them they're with each other at all times. I like the pack mentality that they're going with, especially what we talked about last week with stables. That's what they do. I mean, they every time, and especially seeing Proud and Powerful come out with the socks full of
baseballs.
Are supposed to be baseballs.
Yep.
Yeah. I assume are tennis balls, maybe. I don't know.
Probably that, or rosin bags or something like. You know what I mean? Something silly.
Sure. But Jericho is just been tremendous. I mean, we're talking about the best of 2019. He also fought at Wrestle Kingdom, having a match against Naito. He also had great matches at Double or Nothing and All Out. All Out is where he defeated Hangman Page to become the first ever AEW World Champion.
Youngest world champion ever.
Yeah, Le Champion. And you and I talked about this, I believe in one of our Vault episodes that we have, that Jericho was the absolute best decision that AEW made for the champion. I don't think that Page was ready. Even though everyone was yearning for a younger, fresh, new company, you needed someone who was very, very comfortable to get on the mic, to get out there and talk, rile the crowd up. I don't know how everybody gets to watch Dynamite. I know some people obviously watch it on TNT, but on Fight, you get to watch even when they go to commercial break. It's still going. You got to see them riling up the crowd during commercial break, so that when they come back from commercial, the crowd is going nuts booing Jericho. He is the best heel. He is the best, honestly. I don't want to say best wrestler today. I want to say he is the best overall superstar or character or package. Everything you want to put together, he is the best overall right now that any show, honestly, has to offer. That's my personal opinion. What's your take on Jericho?
Yeah, I can't really disagree with anything that you said. I've
Why
watched,
would you?
exactly. I've been watching Jericho since WCW. That's when I first saw him, and loved him. Loved it. Just this, it was the same thing too. Anytime he was in the ring, the boos were deafening, and I just remember laughing my ass off. It was fantastic. I saw him debut on Raw when he cut his promo against The Rock. That was magic. And since then, he's just reinventing himself and putting twists on it. When he had his the build up to his fight with Naito, the promos that he was cutting, he just had he was doing like a selfie video in the desert, and oh god, it was
Oh, the
just
turtle. Oh, I
yeah,
forgot
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah. It
Oh,
was
those are great.
fantastic, fantastic. Him at the press conferences for NJPW where he's like throwing chairs and tables. Um, he puts everybody over. He puts his stablemates over. I mean, if it weren't for like we started to get to know Sammy Guevara, and I think it was like, yeah, he's a good worker, whatever. Now that he's with the inner circle, like, okay, I like him. Like I like to hate him. Proud and powerful, same thing. And Jake Hager, the big hurt, just standing there, it works. He couldn't just do that if he was by himself. Being with Jericho, even though he's more of a name, it just makes it. He needs to stop wearing the damn polo shirts. Maybe something a little tougher looking. Like a black
See,
T-shirt or
well,
something.
I kind of like that because it's almost security guard like. Maybe if you wore a
Yeah,
black one to look and it said
yeah,
security.
fair enough. But yeah, he's
I
just fantastic.
actually I love the former LAX Santana and Ortiz, Proud and Powerful. I love their uh, just gang mentality and just beating the crap out of people. They benefit from being with Jericho. I think they would have been fine by themselves.
Sure.
But putting them with Jericho, I think makes them just that much more powerful. And then you also, like you said, with Sammy Guevara, same thing. I think if he was just by himself as a heel on that card, or in that roster, he would be completely lost in there, much like a lot of other guys are.
Definitely.
And Jake Hager, what I see happening eventually is maybe something like a Diesel and Shawn Michaels thing, where he's his bodyguard for so long, and then he's had his back, but then maybe when Jericho does officially lose the title, maybe at the first time when he loses it, he doesn't blame Hager, but maybe in the rematch he blames Hager, and then they start going at it, and I think that's how the dissension will eventually happen. I think it's going to start with that. Hager is a monster. I'm surprised they haven't used him at all yet, and that's confusing to me. I'm not sure why, unless he has something going on with his contract for MMA.
That's what I think it is.
But I'm confused. I mean, one is
He's still in the drug testing pool, which means
okay.
he wants to fight.
So then, I mean, but why can't you work some matches, take some bumps?
That's a good question. You would think he'd be able to take a bump here or there, but I don't know. Maybe they're trying to do the slow burn as opposed to everything else. It is confusing. But again, it's with Jericho, and it's one of the things they are doing right. I think. I think it's good. Build it up a little bit more, and then let's see him go after somebody.
How long until Jericho loses the title? Even though we're talking about the best of this, does he lose it in this year, in 2020?
When did he win the title? All Out?
All Out, which would be August.
August. So.
Or September? One or the other.
September. Actually, it might have been end of August. It was right after we moved, actually. So end of August, beginning of September. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
So it's got to be more than 6 months. I would say somewhere between the 8 to 12 month range. But there's a lot of booking that needs to happen to get there. I don't just want to see, this guy's good. We'll take, we need something definitive. We need something a little more intricate than what we've seen lately.
So let's quickly run down what we have with AEW. And, that's it's unfortunately almost a negative that we could talk about with this, but they're not on the negative list. But who could really take the title right now? Who would you even see as a possibility? Because here's who I have going right now in my head. You have Omega. Nope, not the way he's booked. He can't just come out of nowhere and take the title.
Exactly.
So he needs to be better built. I'm okay with the storyline of it, I guess, but I really kind of wish Cody didn't take himself out of contendership for it, because I personally am a fan of Cody. That's going to get a lot of flack, I know, because I talked to a lot of people who are like, nope, he's not past mid-card level. That's okay, but to me, I think he could be a world champion there. Doesn't have to be a long reign, but I think he could have dethroned Jericho down the road. But with the storyline, obviously not. I don't even see Moxley holding the title. He doesn't need it. He definitely does not need it. I think that if they introduce a mid-card title, something like a TV title or anything like that, then yes, I would put that on Moxley. The only person who I think is capable of taking the title and being strong enough with a reign, Pac.
Yep, agreed.
That's it. And it's funny because I don't mean that it has to go to another heel, but you don't have a strong enough baby face that a bunch of heels can chase after.
Right.
Right? I mean, there's not one strong enough heel, or I'm sorry, face in that company who can really take the reins right now and really have credible matches. Unfortunately, just not right now. There are some rumors of certain people coming to join the company. We'll see what happens. But coming in at number 4, oh man. I didn't think we'd say the words drizzling shits this many times, but
oh boy,
coming in at the drizzling shits at number 4 is this is like a Vince Russo storyline, which is really weird, but it's going on in WWE. And I'm going to let you take the reins on this one. We have Bobby Lashley, Rusev, and real life wife, Lana. Go ahead.
Yeah, drizzling shits, I think, is an understatement. And I don't think it's just a Russo thing. I think this is a Vince Attitude Era style storyline. And here's a little reminder, not that you want to be reminded of this, but do you remember how this whole storyline started?
I don't know. Wasn't he a sex machine or something like that?
Before that.
I don't know. All I know is he came out randomly looking like Freddie Mercury after being gone for so long, and I thought that was great. But then, at this point, I've been kind of tuning out a little bit because Raw was not really fun to watch. So go ahead and tell us what happened.
This all started with the Maria Mike Kanellis pregnancy story.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, which was in itself the drizzling shits.
And was Rusev the father of...
No, Lashley. Actually, no, it started with Rusev. And then that's when Lana came out with Lashley, and it just all has gone down from there. I think amongst
and to remind our listeners, actually, real quick, the Kanellises, or Bennett and Kanellis, however you want to call it, they requested to be released from WWE, but then also signed new contracts not too long after. I wonder if it was like, no, we want out. This is stupid. We don't want to be a part of the storyline. I actually don't know what their thoughts were on it. I haven't read anything that they were against it. Did you?
No, but actually, I heard that they signed new contracts, but then shortly after that, Mike Bennett said he was leaving. So I don't know if this was their punishment, because we've seen that happen before. This might have been their punishment. But wait,
who's being punished? Because right now, this is our punishment.
Yeah, well, no shit. Yeah, but Vince is pretty short-sighted, so...
This is, if I'm not mistaken, I don't turn on Raw. If I can read a couple of shows worth where I was like, wow, that seems really good. Oh, wow, I can't believe they did that too. All right, maybe I'll check it out. Nah, I gave up a while back on watching Raw or SmackDown. But if I'm not mistaken, is this not closing most of the shows recently?
It has been. It has been. And I don't know why. Remember when we used to get Stone Cold or Triple H or The Rock or even Mankind or The Undertaker to close out a show? Shawn Michaels, DX. Nope.
John Cena.
Nope. John Cena. Shit, I'll take John Cena. You know? So, but there's more. There's more to this. Lana has butchered just about every promo.
Oh man, one of my favorite ones was when she said he can't come within 90 miles of her. And then she goes, I'm sorry, 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I go, what? That was a highlight. It said horrible Lana botch or whatever I read on WrestlingInc.com. And when I clicked on that one, that's a keeper.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're all keepers anytime she talks. And, a good heel can rile up the crowd without making it obvious that they're riling up the crowd, right? It's organic. They're just being themselves and they're getting a response. Alana has like openly gone after the crowd. No, don't you know what I mean? It's been awful. On top of that, the grand finale to this, and I hope and don't hope at the same time. No, actually, you know what? I take that back. I hope that this is actually the end. You get a TLC match. No, it was a tables match. My apologies. Tables match between Rusev and Lashley that came about during the divorce signing procedure, which we all were fortunate enough to witness on Raw. And what happened? Lana got involved, which, hey, okay, maybe this will go somewhere good. No, Lashley's just going to botch putting Rusev through a table, then try again and do it. Okay, so the guy who's super over, has been super over, disappeared off TV, finally came back, looking even more like a rock star, loses. And then the following Raw the next day, it is a promo with Lana and Lashley where Lana tells everybody that she asked Bobby to ask her to marry him. And that's where we stand. What would you have to say about all of that, Professor?
Just that.
Yeah, there you go.
Silence. That's what I have to say.
That's where, just everybody listening, that's where he's going to put in the cricket sound.
Nope. I'm not even doing post-production on that. I want you to know that was my exact answer. Ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. This isn't Roman Reigns booze that the fans are doing to you, WWE. This is, we really just don't like this. This is stupid. Like, we don't agree with this. I mean, I kind of wish that in unity, somehow every fan listens to this podcast and you all should start every time you're there live and these people come out and do any part of their segment together. I want you just to turn your back and just everybody face the opposite way of the ring. Let them know that you just don't want to watch this.
Seriously.
It's horrible. Hopefully something big comes out of it. You know what sucks is you're wasting two pretty decent talent. I was never really a major Bobby Lashley fan. However, again, I think we talked about this last week with 3MB, right? Drew McIntyre took off for a while, came back. But when he took off, other companies saw the stock in him, and they made him the world champion. Lashley was world champion Impact multiple times.
Absolutely.
And not someone I ever necessarily really cared about. I liked him when he was in WWE the first time, and he was ECW champion. I just think right now, when you brought him back, did you say, cool, well, hey, heads up, when we bring you back, it's going to be a comedy relief thing. We're actually not expecting anything good out of you. Because what has he even done since he's been back? Everything has been comedy relief. Him and Sami Zayn, Sami talking about Lashley's sisters or this or that or whatever.
Yep.
And now he's in this. It sucks because you have a great opportunity between him and Brock Lesnar. I'm not asking you to make this thing your main event of WrestleMania. I'm asking you to just put that match together because everyone would want to see it. And I don't think that Lashley would expect that he has to go over. I don't think. But I mean, they both
No,
have that MMA background, but I would like to see that happen. Lashley needs to be in there doing some real physical stuff. The last thing decent he did was when he was with Leo Rush.
that was
Leo
it.
Rush
Yeah,
was by his side, and he was it U.S. or Intercontinental champion?
Intercontinental. He didn't have to talk much. He got to and Leo Rush was a fantastic hype man. It was perfect.
Yep. And then he lost it at WrestleMania the right way. It just had, he didn't have to have a mega long match. It was perfect. It was fine. I hopefully a better year for Rusev and Lashley. Somehow something has to break. And I don't mean this in a mean way, but maybe it's Lana's leg and she just can't come to TV anymore.
Yeah, right.
But, I just actually mentioned WrestleMania, and that's what actually comes in at number 4 for our top best of for 2019. I had a certain match or two that I thought could have made the list, and same with ODM. So we decided that WrestleMania 35, the event itself, actually deserved to be here. There were some pretty decent moments that happened on this show. There was also some bad moments. Quickly, just because I don't have the entire card right in front of me. Off the top of my head, I absolutely loved that they came out with Heyman saying, "Well, if we're not on last, we're going on first, so we can get out of here."
That was fantastic.
And yeah, I didn't expect Lesnar and Rollins to open up the show like that, and it was a really cool match. I actually at that point was fine with Rollins. Right now, he's being so shoved down everybody's throat, it's not fun anymore. But also on this show, you had Samoa Joe beat Rey Mysterio quick, which I liked. But the one of my favorite parts of WrestleMania was Kofi Kingston beating Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. For a quick little background, a lot of people didn't expect Kofi to win the title, or B, even be in that seat to begin with. Going back to, I want to say, the beginning of February, Kofi was not slated to be in a championship role for WrestleMania that we at least knew of. Daniel Bryan and Mustafa Ali were having a little bit of a feud, but I believe that, or he was at least kind of getting his opportunities and was starting to have some upsets on SmackDown, and he was making his way into the Elimination Chamber, which the winner was going to face. Or no, I believe it was still for the championship, actually. That was a championship Elimination Chamber match. But Ali suffered a concussion. Kofi Kingston got inserted into that chamber match, and the crowd went nuts. And each and every week, they were behind Kofi. And it legitimately became Kofi Mania. I have been a giant Kofi Kingston fan since day one, since he had a Jamaican accent to the day he lost it, to the days he was tag team champion with Punk and Evan Bourne, Intercontinental and U.S. champion multiple times. I thought that this was extremely well-deserved. A lot of people thought he's too little, he is not credible enough, he's not a draw. He's no bigger or smaller when you put him right next to Seth Rollins. He may even be taller. I, again, can't say enough great things about Kofi Kingston. So him winning the title at WrestleMania, loved it. I thought it was great. And then, of course, WrestleMania was capped off with the first ever women's main event of WrestleMania. And it was a triple threat between the Queen, Charlotte Flair, Rowdy Ronda Rousey, and the man, Becky Lynch. ODM, talk to me a little bit about this main event.
Yeah, so it was a winner-take-all match. So the winner would take both the SmackDown and the Raw Championship. And actually had a little interesting preamble where Asuka was the SmackDown Women's Champion and ended up losing it to Charlotte right before Mania. Might have even been right before the Rumble. I don't remember where it landed, but so they put the SmackDown Championship on Charlotte Flair and made it a three-way match. It was a good match. It was the second. I'm sorry, it was the third longest match on the card. It was 21 minutes 30 seconds. It was a great match. Everybody got to look good in it. The unfortunate thing was the finish. Ronda getting pinned by Becky, but Ronda's shoulders not being on the mat, and it was clear as day. To the point where
See, I'm okay with it because
but they didn't play off
Corey
of it.
Graves pointed it out, and he goes,
Yeah.
her shoulders weren't even on the mat.
Right.
Now, yes, it's a bad finish to the end of WrestleMania. Now,
But they
that
never
match was
did
everywhere
anything
else.
really with it.
No, but what I'm saying is the day Rousey comes back,
Ah.
Becky's still champion.
Right.
You didn't pin me. You can say you beat me, but I am still not beat. Watch that footage.
Yeah.
I'm saying she has room to come back and do that. I think that there's that. However, not for your main event because the crowd was like, oh, that's it? Oh,
Yeah,
you should stand up and clap.
Right. But, I mean, it was good. I think at this point, Becky had definitely gotten over to the point where, WWE had tried to make her heel and it just wasn't sticking. So they had no choice at that point to make her face. She was over. She had, she had her moments with Nia Jax around Survivor Series, where she got her nose busted. So at this point, she was the man. She was over, and this was her crowning. And we got a great main event. I think it was a good match to be the first women's match to main event race WrestleMania. It was a good match. It lived up to that billing, and I really didn't have any complaints about it. It was good. It did what it was supposed to do. That ending did flatten it a little bit, but it lived up to the hype. I was happy with the result.
Who was the star of the match in your opinion?
I thought Ronda was fantastic. She really took to everything great. And let's not forget their feud building up. They had the backstage brawl where Ronda and Charlotte were handcuffed in the back of a car.
I loved that.
Ronda kicked out the glass and put Charlotte head
did
through
a
it.
knee to
Yes.
Ronda's head. Well as Ronda also drove the police car while handcuffed. A lot of great things happened. I asked who was the star of it because I think the person who carried that match was Charlotte.
Charlotte, it was, yeah. I mean, she is the best.
She took some of the best bumps in the match. She was really just, I think, because she's the pro. And I love how she came in. It was a nod to how Ric Flair came in to one of his championship matches, coming in the helicopter. And I believe he was facing Dusty Rhodes during that match.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Or no, I want to. Oh, maybe Garvin. I'm not sure. But I do remember that's it. Her father came in the same way, which I thought was really, really cool. However, with that finish, the only thing I think I would have done would have been Becky making Charlotte tap, because it was a definitive moment that would have had the crowd on their feet, and then the moment it happened, you would have got that pop. The pin did not get that pop because I think a lot of people thought, it's a roll-up, she's just going to kick right out.
Right.
And she didn't, and they're like, okay, let's get up. And I mean that because that was my exact reaction. I go, okay, well, the match is over. All right. I want to back up. You said this was the third longest match. Can I take a guess as to the longest match?
You already know what it is. Go ahead.
Triple H and Batista.
Damn right it was. By a minute.
What was number 2? Would that be Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan?
Kofi and Daniel Bryan.
You know, that night we also had Orton and Styles.
Yep.
Drew McIntyre actually took on the returning. This is another thing that we want to make sure was part of the positive. This is the reason that WrestleMania was a part of this. The returning Roman Reigns. The big dog had just come out of remission from everything that he had been dealing with, and he came back to fight at WrestleMania. I mean, he dropped the title in, I want to say, the October prior, because Dean Ambrose, I think, was just turning heel or was about to turn heel when he was still a part of the company, and they were still trying to make the Shield thing happen, but then that happened with him. But he came back, I believe, February or March, and then the Shield kind of had one big match together on a pay-per-view against, I want to say, Strowman, Ziggler, and McIntyre, or something to the effect of, or maybe Corbin was involved. Yeah. And then at WrestleMania, he did defeat McIntyre in a great match. You know, it's funny that you said those matches went long. I have something to admit. I fell asleep for the first time watching WrestleMania. It was just, things were going too long for me. It's a long night, especially if you want to get started watching the pre-show, which had Hawkins and Ryder winning the tag titles, which was kind of a cool moment to watch, especially with Hawkins going on such a long losing streak. That I thought that was a cool moment to watch. You had to be a part of that. I think they had a cruiserweight title match. There was a lot to take in.
Yeah, Tony Nese and Buddy Murphy.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a lot to take in. It was a great event. However, this is very funny. I texted someone, and I don't think it was you, and I said, when are they doing... And I passed out for a little bit, and I thought that I only passed out for the end of one match and that the next match was beginning, and I just didn't look at the time, and I texted someone. I'm like, when are they doing Miz versus Shane McMahon? They go, are you serious? Are you high? No, man, I actually fell asleep. Oh, well, it's over, and you should really go back and see what happened with his father. That was tremendous.
Yeah, it was.
His father getting in the ring and looking like he's never, ever been in a fight, ever thrown a punch.
Stick him up.
I thought, yeah, it was great. So that's the only thing I missed was that match, apparently. But yeah, Triple H and Batista went way too long. I almost fell back asleep for that one. I was on my feet, no kidding, watching the end of Kofi and Daniel Bryan because it was a real good match. It was back and forth. I didn't even care if Daniel Bryan won because it was a good match. He had a great storyline going in, especially his championship that he had at that time.
It was awesome.
But there was also a couple of things that people thought, what if here at WrestleMania, Big E and Xavier turn on him, because they brought something down to ringside. What if it ended up being the original, or not original, but the WWE Championship that wasn't Bryan's version? I had thoughts that they were going to turn him on. Did you actually think on that or no?
I didn't think so. No,
okay.
It's something that'll be coming, I'm sure, eventually. It should anyway. But I think at that
we did talk about that.
Yeah, I don't think it was
going to happen.
Yeah, I didn't think this was the time. This was about Kofi. It was an organic build. The crowd wanted it. It was kind of fitting that he was fighting Daniel Bryan because this was almost another version of the Yes movement.
Totally.
A little. Shorter in time, maybe not as intense, but it was very similar. It was the crowd was backing Kofi, and they pulled the trigger. They didn't really have much of a choice, which is a good thing.
Something that didn't make it into our worst category, but we did talk about, is WWE's "You Are the Authority" comment. And that happened in December of 2018. And as much as they, said that you guys are going to be the ones in charge, you guys, whatever you want, you're going to get to see. It didn't happen. The only thing that actually did happen that they listened to was the Kofi Kingston push. People wanted it. It actually was very organic, and WWE just said, you know what? In the area or the moment we're in here, Ali's out. I don't even know if they really had thought that far ahead. Actually, you know what? I take it back. From what I had heard is that it may have almost been Daniel Bryan versus Kevin Owens for the title. Because Owens was just coming back fresh at that moment, too. He came back just the pay-per-view before. So Kofi was a more natural, organic fit, and I loved it, and I'm glad that that's what they went with. So that's why, again, WrestleMania 35, a lot of great moments there. I thought that was a great match. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. Let's go back to the worst. Number 3. Now, I'm sure everybody expected this to be on here somewhere at some point because we got to find a better descriptive word than drizzling shits, but I guess this was just absolutely horrible, stupid, poor planning, bad booking, overall just a very bad decision to even go live doing what they did in October. Was it October? Yes. Or close to, maybe, I don't know.
Roundabout.
Yeah. WWE's Hell in a Cell. And that was where the entire pay-per-view was based around what most people assumed was Bray Wyatt taking the title from Seth Rollins, taking the Universal title. At this point, Bray Wyatt has been heavily promoted. He's been heavily pushed. And unfortunately, when you get to the Hell in a Cell match, the rules, again, we talked about this with the Omega Moxley match. That's a blow-off match. That is your final match. A lot of matches that used to be done back in the day were steel cage matches. That was your final one. No one can get in. No one can get out. This is the end. Your Hell in a Cell should be that kind of match. If you're going in, there must be a definitive winner, because there is a freaking box wrapped around you. That's it. End of the story. And there are no disqualifications. There's no countouts. I mean, we've seen Hell in a Cell matches go on top, on the side, in, under, everything. But Bray Wyatt, did he lose? Was it technically a loss? Was it a draw? What was the outcome of this match?
It was a no contest.
Okay. How do you get a no contest from this?
How do you get a no contest in a Hell in a Cell? How is there no other outcome than pinfall or submission? Those really should be the only two outcomes. Maybe TV time, but even then you just keep going and you just put it on the network. That's typically, they've done that before. It was horrible booking. The match never needed to happen. They booked themselves into a corner is what they did. And You saw what they eventually did. They're like, oh, hey, you know what? And you know what? Hey, maybe it's because they know they had the Saudi Arabia event and they're like, you know what? They're going to throw us more money, so we're going to swap the title then. And we can just book this shitty and not have to worry about it because we'll resolve it at the next pay-per-view. Yeah, I guess it technically resolved it, but it really didn't. It didn't erase the stench of this match. Listen, as a one-time thing, I kind of liked the red lighting. I could see why, as a fan at the venue, you would hate it. You probably couldn't see crap, considering the fucking cage is red. So there's some poor planning right there. Obviously ending on the no contest, it's like, oh, wait a minute, you've beat the crap out of them so much, but now we're going to stop it. That was awesome. That was just awful.
But then he also got up. Now, from what my understanding, did he legitimately suffer a concussion?
I don't think so.
Okay, so here's the thing. You didn't have to call it a no contest. The ref could have checked on him multiple times as each tool or steel pipe, chair, this, that, everything, the toolbox, everything that got piled on top of him. If he checked in and didn't respond, your winner is Seth Rollins by KO or by or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
that makes more sense.
I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin did not submit to Bret Hart. He passed out. That was Bret Hart won the match, right?
Yep.
It wasn't a no contest. And they've done that multiple times. So why did you say this was a no contest? I would have actually just taken a Bray loss, saying he got knocked out. I don't know, whatever. I would have taken that way more than a no contest, because then when they did get to Saudi Arabia, I don't think anybody really cared. They were like most people were like, oh, he got the title? Huh, cool. I didn't care. Yeah. At that point, I was like, I was still trying to wash the taste out of my mouth from what I had only seen just 2 weeks prior. And this match was what must be a winner.
Yeah.
Guess what? Hell in a Cell must be a winner.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God. You know what's funny? Is that was number 3. No, not at all. But that was number 3. That was our number 3 worst moment of the year. But what was our top moment of the year at number 3?
Well, if you're asking me, oddly enough, it was something related to this match. It's The Fiend.
Yeah. The emergence of Bray Wyatt and The Fiend. I didn't expect them to actually commit to a storyline the way they have. Well, let me take that back. We do know they commit to storylines because of, Lashley, Rusev, and Lana. But with the Bray Wyatt whole reemergence, his resurrection of what he was, last we had seen Bray Wyatt prior to all this was when he was with Woken Matt Hardy, and they had won tag titles, I believe, at WrestleMania 34, just the year prior. And a little bit after that, I believe Matt Hardy had gotten injured, so they unfortunately had to relinquish the tag titles. From there, Bray, I think, really didn't do much, and he just kind of left TV for a while. And when he came back, we started getting these vignettes of him starting to come back, but then we got these videos that happened on both Raw and SmackDown, and it is labeled, I want to get the right name. Is it Bray Wyatt's Family Funhouse?
Firefly Funhouse.
Firefly Funhouse, that's right, sorry. When it first came on, everybody was like, what is this hokey shit?
Pretty much.
This is like, it was like Pee-wee's Playhouse. It was exactly like Pee-wee's Playhouse.
It was just more sadistic. Yeah.
Exactly. But then when you start watching it, and then at the very end when he kind of lowered his voice a little bit, but then came right back to the happy Bray Wyatt, I jumped on board right away. Again, within the first 30 seconds, I go, oh my God. You know what I thought they did was Brodus Clay. You know, they said that Brodus Clay was going to be this big monster. They kept showing vignettes for him coming to Raw for quite some time. And when he showed up, somebody call my mama. And he started dancing, and he had his dancing funkettes with him. He was the Funkasaurus. It was really, really bad. So I was kind of expecting that. As soon as they started the Firefly Funhouse, but it's taken a much better turn, because in about maybe, let's say, 6 episodes in of it, you finally got to see his friend, the Fiend, it's his dark side. And the Fiend started doing, I believe it was Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and then it ended with Yowie Wowie. Yowie Wowie. 2 words that you never would have expected would be chanted at a wrestling event, and that's like one of the top chants right now is Yowie Wowie.
Absolutely.
His whole resurrection, I love it, and he's not the only one behind this. He is actually, he has a good hand on it, but from what I have read, I believe that Undertaker has been assisting him.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
In the character. It's a great character so far. I think that, you know, I did kind of say last week I'm not a fan of how they necessarily have booked him. The only thing I just didn't want was him having the championship this early. I think he needed to run through a lot of people and mess with a lot of people. The way he's messing with The Miz right now is awesome. I love the way they're doing that, and that's no pun intended with awesome for Miz. He just doesn't need the title right now. However, I don't know who needs the title at the same point, so I guess keep it on him and let's run with it. I like the character. I've always been a Bray Wyatt fan. I was I can't say I was a Husky Harris fan when he first came in with the Nexus, but when his character came about on NXT with Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, the Wyatt family began, and when they finally came to Raw, his promos were stellar. And again, we talked about this last week. He was just, it seemed like he was untouchable, but then bad booking. Right now, I think that they have the right direction that they're going with him. I just don't know where he goes from here. When it comes to WrestleMania, what does he do? Who does he face? There's not a big enough kind of monster. And don't give me Braun Strowman, because that's not believable to me. It's not with him. I want to see Bray Wyatt face someone that it looks like he's a legitimate threat. Maybe, again, we talked about Daniel Bryan possibly kind of bringing himself back to the American Dragon ways or something like that, since he's shaved all of his hair off. So, but again, they did a great job so far with Bray Wyatt. I mean, how cool was SummerSlam with him versus Finn Balor?
It was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. One of the things that I like the most about it is the duality of the character. You have Bray Wyatt and you have The Fiend. They are 2 distinctly different characters. They both have their own title belts now. And I like, Bray Wyatt, even during the Wyatt family, really was, you would think, at least from seeing him being groomed as kind of the next Undertaker, that otherworldly character. And they definitely seem to be doing it now, especially with Wyatt no selling a lot. I understand how that could be annoying and at times. I think it's the right choice, though.
Not to me. I was gonna say it's not annoying to me. I like it.
Yeah.
That's what, again, it's why Undertaker was so good to watch. That's why I liked watching Kane. Yeah, people were hitting them with stuff and they were just standing still. I like it. Keep it going.
But even taking that to another step at TLC when he fought as Bray Wyatt, it wasn't that he was no selling. It was that he couldn't feel the pain. He was laughing about it the whole time. Now, I guess you could put that in the category of no selling, but it was so beautiful because there was a promo on the lead up where Bray told Miz, I can teach you not to hurt anymore or not to feel the pain. And that's what we saw during the match. It wasn't that it was no selling, it was just he was laughing. He was being sadistic about it. His entrance, and then at the end, he saw the Phenom on the screen, and it was like he was all excited that his friend was there. It's great. They've done it right so far. And you know what? Now that I did not realize that Taker was involved. Maybe that's the reason that they're not messing with it too much. Is because if Taker's involved, they're going to let Taker run with it. They're not going to micromanage him. They're just going to say, all right, if it has your blessing, just go with it. So I can't wait to see where they go. I understand it's hard to find an opponent, and again, going back to I have no idea what superstars are in which brand. Ricochet would be a good interim opponent because he's kind of got that superhero thing going. And Bray Wyatt's like this evil guy. I mean, that would be a great matchup right there. You have a lot of hope spots.
And just keeps knocking him down.
Yeah, exactly. So there are options. Let's see where they go. Again, I hope what you're saying about Taker is right because if that's the case, that's how I look at Bray Wyatt right now in the Fiend as the next version of Taker, and I'm a huge Undertaker fan. So, give it all to me, pump it in my veins. I'm ready.
I'm with you. So as much as there's good things that WWE has done, it's funny they've ran a lot of our list today, unfortunately, with positives and negatives, but there's more things to come, of course. Coming in at number 2, we're talking about how to capitalize on a character. Let's go back to the Monday night before Survivor Series 2018. Becky Lynch leads all of the SmackDown women into Raw, says this is her show. She's taken out Rousey in the back, and the SmackDown women clean house, including people like Charlotte Flair, who is siding with Becky at this time, which, at this time, I believe they just had a feud together, but it was showing the unity of Raw versus SmackDown. And in the mix of it, as we said, Nia Jax punches Becky Lynch right in the nose. For some reason, it just made the crowd love her that much more because she was badass and still fighting. And then when Rousey came out, she was still there in for the fight. So I thought that was actually really a good moment, and WWE was going to capitalize on it. She couldn't have her match at Survivor Series, unfortunately, due to the concussion. And we ended up getting a great match with Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey. And at that point, I actually saw the writing was on the wall that it was either going to be Lynch and Rousey at Mania or a triple threat. So the man, that's what we keep calling her. That's what she calls herself. She is the man, Becky Lynch. She is carried all the way into WrestleMania. She is the hottest commodity. I mean, so many The Man shirts are in the audience if you watch WrestleMania. The crowd was there. They were behind her. And the moment she became champion, that is when WWE said, that's it. We're done. Good job. And now I don't know what we're going to do with you. That was it. That was the pinnacle. And it sucks because there's so many things they could have done with her. And I'm just kind of thinking here, off the top of my head, what I've seen her do in 2019. So she had been a part of the feud with her boyfriend, Seth Rollins, or fiance, against Corbin and Lacey Evans. That made absolutely no sense at all. Now, and she, walking out of WrestleMania was dual champion, but then lost the title at Money in the Bank, I believe, is when the cash-in happened on her. Since then, she has been booked as a tag team wrestler with Charlotte, where they've been going after the Kabuki Warriors. Okay, I that's fine if she wasn't a champion, if she wasn't your main world women's champion that you're supposedly supposed to be pushing as the man. How is she in a tag team match? She's not the man, she's co-man or whatever you want to call it. She's not, unless they're just holding on until something big like January or something like that and Rousey shows up. I don't know. I want Rousey to show back up to kind of avenge that loss, as we talked about earlier. But right now, where does Becky go from here? Who do you put against her? Unless you have, well, I mean, really the only credible opponent I honestly see for Becky Lynch at this exact moment, Shayna Baszler.
Yeah.
She's done with probably NXT, I'm sure, unless she tries to, maybe she avenges her loss or tries to against Rhea Ripley, see if she could become the only 3-time NXT Women's Champion. But at the end of the day, she's the only credible opponent that Becky Lynch could really have next to Ronda Rousey. So they really got to do something big with her because she's doing nothing. I believe she's even called it out on Twitter.
Oh, she called it out. She called it out on Raw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Again, maybe I didn't read all of the script. What did they say? What did she say?
Oh, basically the same thing. And she's been relegated to the tag team division.
She was awesome on the mic when she first won the women's title, and the match was set between her and Rousey prior to the broken nose. When she was giving promo, she's like, "I'm not coming for your respect. I'm coming for your arm." She was believable on the mic that she was like, "I'm done being held down. Everything has been given to you, and I clawed, I scratched, I fought my way to get here." It was an awesome storyline. It was a great push, and then all of a sudden it just fell flat the moment WrestleMania 35 went off air.
Similar to her boyfriend.
Oh, geez. Well, no. Well,
wow.
At least he's been having title defenses and pushed, I guess. I mean, properly. I don't mind his new AOP thing.
I'm not against it.
But I believe it was just recently Jim Cornette said, I don't miss you. There's no reason to, like, every week, if you're on this show, I'm going to see every one of your moves, and it's going to be the same thing every week. I want to be happy when you show up to Raw. Be off Raw for a week or two, man. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to see the same guys over and over and over every week having the same matches. How many times have I seen Mysterio and Styles, or Mysterio and all these guys, or Styles versus all the same guys on Raw? I mean, it's been the OC pretty much every week on Raw over the last couple of weeks. Viking Raiders versus the OC. It's just nonstop the same matches. So they really, Seth Rollins, I'm okay with him being a part of AOP, but you guys got to freshen it up. And you have a deep roster. I think that you shouldn't do the draft. I don't think you should have a brand split, because I would like to see somewhere that randomly, let's just say, Becky Lynch just gets done with a match on Raw against anybody, a Lacey Evans, and out comes Sasha Banks and jumps her, even though she's, supposed to be on SmackDown. I'd like to see, new matches showing up like that rather than the same stuff every week over and over. I've seen Kabuki Warriors and Charlotte and Becky in some form. Over the last 2 months, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So they need to make some changes. They need to push Becky in a different light, because right now you didn't capitalize on the man. It was the total opposite. Like I said, as soon as 35 went off air, I forgot anything that ever happened to Becky Lynch. Most of these things, as I'm saying them right now, are just randomly coming to my head because I really just, there's not anything that she's done that's been memorable this year. Ask me last year, she was the talk of the entire wrestling business.
Absolutely.
At this exact point last year, at this exact time. and we were heading into a TLC match. I believe it was her, Charlotte, and Asuka. That's where that match happened. They really they went the opposite. They went in reverse with her. So I really like to see them turn that around. Anything else you want to add to Becky? I'm pretty sure we probably covered all the crap.
Yeah, I mean, just a bit of fantasy booking, which would be cool, is like you said, if Baszler jumps up, challenges her, they got a little bit of history already, and have that match happen. Maybe have Ronda Rousey return there, look like she's going to challenge Baszler, and then have her embrace, and then there you go. There's the 4 horsewomen of MMA. And then maybe do something with the original 4 horsewomen of NXT. Just a little bit of fantasy
I would actually
booking.
like to see. Well, it's funny that.
Or you could do Baszler versus Ronda.
See, that would be awesome too, because I would like to see that match, but I think it's too early because they are friends. I'm sorry, I'm going to use pronouns here. Ronda Rousey and Baszler and the rest of the MMA 4 horsewomen, that had been teased like 2-3 years ago with Charlotte, Bayley, Banks, and Lynch.
Yep.
And I really, really wanted to see it then. I think that if you want to do something cool, how about do that at WrestleMania? We don't need to have the women's title necessarily defended at WrestleMania. I mean, you could do if right now Bayley's the SmackDown champion, right?
Yeah.
So you'd have both tag champions, or I'm sorry, both your world women champions in the same match. But I would like to see a 4-on-4 match at WrestleMania. I think that would be a great blow-off. Having them show up and slowly build it each week, and then you see them all come together. Like you said, fantasy booking. I don't think that's just your fantasy booking. I think it's a lot of people's fantasy booking because they teased it years ago.
Yeah.
When it was, I think, maybe this is before Ronda even signed. This may have even been when Ronda jumped the barricade at WrestleMania 31 and joined The Rock, like not too long after that. Or maybe it was actually around the time of the Mae Young Classic, the first one. So I really, really would like to see that possibly evolve, but who knows? But, we talk about people like Bayley, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, all these great women wrestlers, the revolution that they had, all began in what is our best of 2019. Coming in at number 2 is NXT Never Fails. That was the best way we could really describe this this segment, if you will. NXT has been the most consistent brand. Doesn't matter if they were on the network. It doesn't matter if they're on USA Network. Even their live events, which I've actually been fortunate to be a part of, go and watch one. They put on great shows no matter what. It's great wrestling matches. The funny thing is that when they get up to the main roster, everything's over. And you see a lot of things, like a lot of teams like the Revival, American Alpha. They all just kind of went away when they got to the main roster. Same with people like Kevin Owens, Finn Balor. A lot of the guys, they didn't have the same push on the main roster that they do in NXT. And what you're starting to see is a lot of the guys don't want to go up. And I believe Tommaso Ciampa said, "Fire me. Yep. I'm not going up."
Thank God.
Yeah. And I think about these. This is the list of guys that I could just think off the top of my head right now that have been carrying 2019's NXT product. You have Adam Cole.
Baby!
Johnny Gargano. You have the rest of Undisputed Era. You have Ciampa has returned. Now we also have Finn Balor has been a part of it. We have some teams are starting to get in there a little more. We have the Forgotten Sons, which I like, that are starting to get a little more push. You got Keith Lee, Matt Riddle. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing a lot of guys here, but that's how.
Yeah, those are big ones right there.
Yeah, it's a pretty deep roster for just NXT. And they are head-to-head with AEW every Wednesday night. They're winning. They are winning the quote-unquote Wednesday Night War. And sure, the first night, I'm sure Dynamite had to win because everybody wanted to tune in to see what are they going to do. We've seen NXT's product. We've seen what they do at Full Sail, so it's not going to be much of a difference. Let's see what Dynamite is going to look like. Second week, I think they kind of did the same thing, but I think once the third week rolled around, people were like, oh, yeah, this isn't as good as I thought. NXT is still putting on great matches each and every week. They're having championship matches. Oh, man, another guy that carried it throughout the entire year, but unfortunately is hurt right now. Velveteen Dream.
Oh, love Velveteen Dream.
I didn't even care for him at first, but now he's one of my favorite wrestlers. He is just so charismatic. He is a very athletic performer. He's great, and another guy I just don't want to see go to the main roster. I think that NXT needs him. I think NXT needs to stay as is with a lot of these guys. And we talked about it last week. It's kind of a Ring of Honor 2.0 with a lot of these guys who used to be over there.
Yeah, you have to stop looking at it, and not you particularly, but everybody needs to stop looking at it as getting called up. I don't look at it as being called up. I know an easy way to describe NXT to maybe the more casual fan or those who don't know what NXT is that it's like the farm system for WWE. It's where younger wrestlers go to hone their skills. It's where they go to make a name for themselves before moving up to the main roster. It's its own entity. Entity. It's its own thing. It's its own promotion, even though it's part of WWE. It can't be looked at as the minor leagues or the starting point. It just is its own thing, and it's the thing that I'm most drawn to. When AEW first started, obviously that's where my attention was, and I would watch AEW live and then go back and watch NXT on Hulu. I'm flipping that now. I'm going to watch NXT, and then I'll go back and watch AEW.
Yeah, there's nothing that you need to see live necessarily with AEW that's making you have to tune in. Every week it's been the same guys. It has been, pretty much every week is Joey Janela and Bucks, Inner Circle,
Lucha
Cody,
Brothers.
Lucha, MJF. It's been pretty much just the same guys over and over. And then you sprinkle a little bit of Sean Spears every now and then.
Yeah. Dark Order.
In the women, we did talk about this, that unfortunately it didn't make our worst list, but it could and should have. Unfortunately, the women's division in AEW is horrible. It's something that I think is just wasting TV time when you really could be pushing other guys. And that's not being sexist. That's not us being condescending or that anything like that. Again, we're not even athletic enough to even be a wrestler. I'm not even athletic enough to even be a fucking ref, but or even the announcer. To be honest with you, it's a lot of movement. Anyway, no, the women's division is just really failing right now. I would put them more on AEW Dark, or if you have another sister show that you eventually start making, but on your primetime show, we talked about it. Omega, he needs to be pushed. He needs to be in a good marquee match. He needs to be on AEW. The first couple of weeks, they had some great cards. Now you're going into it, you're like, oh man, there's 2 women's matches. I don't even know who any of them are.
Right. But that's the thing. You don't have that problem on NXT, because the worst case scenario is you don't know somebody and you'll know by the end of the match. And you'll either say, okay, that's a jobber and I don't care, or that's a character I got to keep my eyes on now.
Yeah, I 100% agree, because you know what's funny is that the first ever women's NXT War Games match, I knew every woman that was walking in that match.
Yeah.
And if they did a 6-man or 6-woman match right now on AEW, if Nyla Rose, Brandy, Awesome Kong, or Riho are not in there, or Britt Baker, I don't know who you are, because right now there's about I wouldn't be able to pick her out probably.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, I could actually. I'm sorry. No, I know Bea Priestley. I'm sorry. But my point is that it's just not. It's not a strong enough division. I actually would have not put a women's championship to it yet. Sprinkle a couple of matches here and there, and then make it built to something. I think they just kind of threw some championships in there. Right now, I don't think that the AEW can really, fight as strong as they think they can against NXT. And, we talked about this earlier. It's actually going to quickly become, we'll talk about it at number one at one point, whether it's positive or negative, that I think AEW kind of shot themselves in the foot by putting themselves into an open slot on a Wednesday night, knowing that NXT, or not knowing that NXT is just Wednesday nights, but that NXT, that WWE has the ability to do really whatever they want to.
Pretty much, and yeah.
They kind of shot themselves in the foot by doing that, because now you are in a competition with another product. If you put yourselves on Monday night, all right, you're facing Monday Night Football. You put yourselves on, certain nights. You have to face certain types of TV shows and products. Now, if you put yourself against Raw, that would have been the better move, probably, or even SmackDown. Putting yourself in the open slot on the same night that NXT actually does their network, and this is before they even jump to USA, I think they put themselves in a bad position at that point. So NXT, again, I wrote it here, NXT never fails. Great takeover events. Not one bad match every time. Again, I know every character. I know every wrestler. Their matches have stories to them. It's not just going out there and just, your tag matches where it's a tornado tag the whole time. No one's even tagging in and out. NXT has great, amazing tag matches. So TakeOver, that's the best place to watch great wrestling. If you watch any pay-per-views out of the year, 4 takeovers is all you probably need at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Anything else you would add to NXT?
No, I mean, you said pretty much everything, but every time I say no, I end up saying something. So let's keep that streak alive. Like you said, the takeovers, you only need 4 a year. You know why? Because when you get them, you know damn well you're going to be entertained every bit of the way. Morrow marks out, the crowd marks out, you mark out at home. It's always fantastic. They always deliver. The matches themselves are structured almost perfectly. You get some nice false finishes. That can be overdone sometimes, but you always get a lot of good spots without it being a spot fest. It's good work rate and, good pacing. Pacing is very important in a good match, and you get that. Triple H shows that he knows, and the people that are teaching these guys are teaching them well. They know how to structure a match and make it work. It's fantastic. I didn't catch the rest of it, but I did see Balor versus Cole for the title and Gargano's return. That match was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. It was great in-ring storytelling. And
if you happen to go on to if you listened to last week's episode, we briefly touched base as to what we thought was going to happen with the this past week's NXT, and I even put out a professor's predictions for last week's Wednesday night, and I was wrong for both title matches. I said there was going to be a schmaz finish when it came to Cole and Cole and Balor. It was semi-close with Gargano coming out, but it
was close.
It close, but it was good. I actually liked it because I don't know, man. Is Gargano going to join into Undisputed Era? I kind of feel like if you can't beat him, join him. I think it's kind of pointing towards that.
Gargano wasn't acting like himself. He was acting very heelish almost.
Yeah.
So I could see that.
A very dark side to him. But the night was capped off with another championship match where Shayna Baszler was defending her NXT Women's Championship against the very popular Rhea Ripley. Again, this match, I thought the 4 horsewomen might get involved. I thought maybe a double count out. I actually even predicted that the Cole Baylor match would go so long that this one would even have time, and they said, we're going to have to do this another time. Let's push it to a takeover. No. And here's the funny thing is I watched this match. I watched it with the expectation of what I predicted. I did not expect Rhea Ripley to win that match. Open-heartedly, I marked out. It was a great moment listening to that crowd go nuts. Her genuine reaction, just like flipping her body around the ring because she was just like so ecstatic about the whole moment. It was an awesome pop. just a phenomenal moment. I thought it was a great match. One of my favorite women's matches, honestly, in a very long time. And, I've seen some great women's matches in the last couple of years. I'm glad that the revolution is what it has been. Women are really getting their opportunity to showcase their talent because they have phenomenal matches just as much as any guy. And over the last couple of years, the women were stealing the show more than men in a lot of the promotions. On this night, you can't touch the NXT women anytime. Their matches are always just stellar. And on this night, Rhea Ripley just stole the show. The crowd was firmly behind her. Unbelievable moment. If you have not had the opportunity to check it out, please make sure you do, whether it's on the network or YouTube, whatever it is. Baszler was a great champion. I didn't want to see her reign end only because I wanted to see someone take it who deserved it. And I definitely think Ripley deserved it. I didn't think it was going to be on a TV program on that was their final episode of the year, right?
Yeah, but here's the other thing, too. I think that's really important. That episode of NXT between the two championship matches was a slap in the face to AEW. Not in a bad way, like talking shit. More of a, hey AEW, this is how you do it. Get your shit together if you really want this to be a true war.
Because that night AEW had
the drizzling shits.
They had a tag team title match between the Young Bucks and SCU, and SCU retained the titles, rightfully so. And the other match was Chris Jericho in a non-title 10-minute time limit match against Jungle Boy. And here is where some stupid shit booking gets pushed in. They went the full 10 minutes, and then he wanted more time, but then he walked out in the middle of it. Either have him win or don't. But also I feel like the announcers were kind of confused. And it even looked like it, I believe on their Twitter, was Jungle Boy a champion? Is he not champion? Should he be champion? No, this is a non-title match the entire time, and we've said that like 100 times. But that's what you put up against two world title matches? You put up Jericho versus Jungle Boy? And don't get me wrong, I am a huge fan of Jungle Boy. Jack Perry, the son of the late Luke Perry. But that's what you put on there that night? Why would you not put any other title match? Jericho against, this is really just off the top of my head. Someone that would have been a credible performer or a credible opportunity for the championship. Oh, I don't know. Kenny Omega?
Is he on Dynamite? I forget because I never see him.
I know he defended his AAA title on AEW Dark, so I'm glad that you're doing that.
Yeah, because that makes sense.
I would even taken either one of the Lucha Brothers against Jericho. They should have did a battle royal, and someone got like 2 weeks ago, and the winner got to go against Jericho. I wouldn't even care if it was Hangman Page again. I just wanted something other than what we got because that was a throwaway show.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about, not only was your show crap, it ended with a masked wrestler punching a mat.
Good stuff.
With the Dark Order.
But it's not the worst.
Good stuff.
But it's not the worst thing of the year.
It's not. It really is not the worst thing of the year. Before we get to the worst thing of the year, we have an honorable mention that we want to talk about. And this one goes to both sides. It is a positive. It is a negative. It's the best and the worst. It is too much wrestling. Is there such a thing as too much wrestling?
It is, and it isn't. It isn't because we want options. We want to be able to say, I like this and I like this. And you want to be able to consume as much of a product as you can. The flip side to that is the results don't always work out in your favor. And sometimes it's a bit overwhelming. We do this podcast and we're fans. Even if we weren't doing this podcast, we'd be paying attention to wrestling across multiple federations and promotions as much as we are now. Excuse me. The problem is, we both do actually work regular jobs. We both have families, and we both have other things that we partake in our day-to-day life. When you've got Raw at 3 hours, and if you watch it at the Hulu version, it's an hour and a half. SmackDown, 2 hours. Dynamite, 2 hours. NXT, 2 hours. That's 1 week. That's not including pay-per-views. That's not including AEW Dark. That's not including other promotions. That's just that. That doesn't include the Being the Elite series or any other YouTube shows by any of these promotions. That's overwhelming. It is hard to find the time to take in all that content. And then, you get things on, you can see it on AEW sometimes, kind of poking fun at WWE programming, or even doing WCW style booking from back in the 90s, which I don't know if they're doing it ironically or it's just a weird thing that's happening. So it definitely can be a bit of both. It's nice to have the options. It's nice to see an already strong show like NXT get stronger because of the competition. It doesn't seem to be affecting Raw or SmackDown because they're still the drizzling shit. So it truly is both. It truly is both. It's overwhelming. It's frustrating, but it's nice to have the options. It's nice to have the competition, and it's even nice to see him talk shit every once in a while.
I don't know if you're like me, but I'm like every Sunday I'm like, all right, what pay-per-view is tonight? Because there's got to be one, right?
Yeah, right. My wife,
if it's not WWE, it's Impact or someone. Someone has a pay-per-view somewhere.
This is the time of the year my wife hates because like every 3 Sundays, there's football during the day and then a pay-per-view at night. So the entire day is shot in the ass.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, you know what you got, Mary? I'm just kidding. No.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a wrestling fan, damn it. I 100% agree. It's funny because I just read something, someone's comments on a thread recently where they were saying my DVR is seriously spilling over. Like I can't catch up. I'm behind like 6 episodes of Impact because I had to get on to do Raw because they have a pay-per-view this weekend, and it is a lot. I mean, at the same point, what a great time to be a wrestling fan. Kind of one of the things we said in our teaser a couple of weeks back. It's a great time to be a fan because you could turn anywhere and you got wrestling. If you want to watch it on cable, you have all the different types of WWE and AEW products. You also, if you don't have cable, you're more of a more of like a Hulu kind of person. You can do it through there, watching the edited down versions like you're saying. But also, you have YouTube, you have NWA, you have MLW, other promotions that are still out there. You have Ring of Honor is still going as well, Impact. So there's a lot of great things that you can see. Over the summer, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great wrestling. A lot of people probably didn't even know that there was a great feud going on between the Guerrillas of Destiny and the Briscoes for the Ring of Honor world titles, or world tag team titles. Because there was just so much crap going on. So, again, it's good and it's bad. I know I could guarantee myself to see a new match, guaranteed, probably every day if I wanted to. At the same point, I can't keep up. And it's funny because you text friends. I got a great buddy who's a friend of the show, Ben. I know he's listening. He all the time. I'm like, hey, did you check this out? He's like, no, dude, there's so much I haven't watched. Did you see this one? Nope, kind of the same thing. I watched this one instead. Oh, okay. It's there's so much to watch. Again, it's it's a blessing and a curse. So you kind of got to take it as you want, or you just kind of have to hug to one promotion. Maybe you're an only WWE fan, maybe you're an only AEW fan, or MLW. A lot of people I know are just staying with NWA right now because it's that old school feel that you used to get on TBS. So a lot of options out there. I'm not sure. I haven't personally been able to hug to one promotion in a long time. I mean, only because there is so much out there. I used to be a strict WWE fan. I would watch Nitro on the replay later on. Now, I mean, there's just so much out there, and there's no way I could ever stay side by side with WWE the way they book. But I can't really find a promotion I want to say I could say that. All right, this is the only one I'm going to watch their matches because again, there's just so many great options out there. So, again, good time to be a fan, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So now we are going to talk about our number ones. We have the worst and we have the best. So our worst, number one. Oh, man. I didn't watch it live because for a lot of us, when these events happen, the Saudi Arabia events tend to happen for most of us here in the U.S., probably more of a afternoon kind of type, sometime between probably 9 a.m. Pacific all the way to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on whatever time zone you're in. And it was, we fought for a couple of minutes as to what the order of this was going to be. I was pushing for Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins' Hell in a Cell match to be number one. But ODM really changed my mind when you really just sit back and think about money really just, it's the root of all evil. And you know that we are talking about the Dead Man, the Phenom, the Undertaker, taking on Bill Goldberg. ODM, take us through this match.
So, for those of you who don't know, and this has been a bit of a talking point between the professor and I for several years, I am a huge Undertaker fan. I mentioned this in the Stables podcast last week, that the first time that I saw him was in WCW taking Sid Vicious's place in the Skyscrapers, only to see him debut in Survivor Series probably a year or two later. Excuse me. So I'm a huge fan of Taker. Been watching him since he debuted, always been a big fan. I get it. He's getting older. They keep bringing him back. I kind of wish. I thought his moment with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania was the perfect way to go out. He didn't.
Oh, it was beautiful. So, it looked so good. I mean, I really thought that was it, and I was like, yes, finally they figured out a way to just let it go.
It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Okay, so that doesn't happen. It's the Phenom. We get it. I kind of wish they would just bring back like the American Badass, as much as I never liked that character. Now's the time you can do it. Now's the time.
It's more realistic. It's more of a...
Exactly. It's him.
Yeah.
It's him. So anyway.
He does look dead, though.
Yeah, I know, right? He's actually starting to look a little bit better. Little bit, but that's a different story. You see, with the dead American Badass, you can put a bandana on, so at least you don't see the hair as much, But anyway, this match didn't need to happen. I guess if it were going to happen, this pay-per-view was the way to do it. But still, it was such a train wreck. We knew it was going to be a train wreck. We had to look. They almost killed each other legitimately. Goldberg banged his head on the door once and had a concussion. His head was bleeding before he even got out to the ring.
I was going to say, let's not say they.
Yeah, well...
They didn't almost kill each other.
Okay, well, Undertaker did kind of almost kill him, trying to give him a tombstone. He did do that.
But a lot to do with his dead body weight, I would assume, because, again, the man concussed himself because he thought, let me bang my head up against a door before I go out. He's done that so many times. He did it once on Raw and came out bleeding.
Bleeding, yeah. And then this time he went for like a spear in the corner. And instead of wrapping his arm around the post, he went head first into the post.
And you could hear it.
That didn't help. And then there was the jackhammer that almost killed The Undertaker. Let's sum this entire match up quickly. This is the only time in 20 plus years of watching The Undertaker that I've seen him break character. When the match was over, he sat up and he looked around like, are you fucking kidding me? He was not happy. He wasn't acting like the Dead Man. He wasn't acting like any of his characters past. He was acting like a professional who was pissed off. And he had every right to be pissed off. It was
I've only seen him out of character after a match twice. That was it. And then the second one was, unfortunately, when the streak ended, but it was because he was knocked out, man. The dude was completely concussed.
He collapsed on it. Yeah, he collapsed on the way back to the back.
Right. So that was the only time I'd ever seen him not, again, yeah, you're right, in character, doing the pose. He was looking like he was not happy. And, let's talk about why this match happened. It was in Saudi Arabia, and much like a lot of things that are going on right now, Saudi Arabia is trying to show that they can be one with American sports. They are working with not only WWE, but they recently just had a boxing event over there where Anthony Joshua just regained his title, if you're a boxing fan. Again, a lot of big fights are happening over there, a lot of big events. What I don't like about it is they're throwing so much money at the WWE and each guy that they personally want. Like, Saudi Arabia is choosing what they want. I'm not sure if anybody knows that. They're actually saying, no, we want this guy here. We want this guy here specifically.
To the point where they ask for dead people sometimes, unknowingly.
Yeah, who did they ask for?
Yokozuna was one of them.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was sad. Come on. But, so they paid to have Shawn Michaels come out of retirement. He was the one person I loved that stayed in retirement, because I watched the send-off like everybody else did when Ric Flair retired the night after WrestleMania 24. It was an awesome moment. Everybody came to the ring. Even Undertaker came out and gave him a salute. All these guys who had, worked with him. And then he just goes to TNA a couple months later and starts working there doing actual wrestling matches. So you retired from only WWE. Michaels said, I'm done. I'm really going off into the sunset. And he stayed that way. And then all of a sudden, when he has completely shaved his head, him and Triple H fight the Brothers of Destruction at a Saudi Arabia event, at a Crown Jewel or whatever it was. And it was the drizzling shits, as we keep saying today. So why did you not learn your lesson? And you said, oh, well, let's just insert Goldberg in here. That'll be fine. Because he works often. And he has such a huge move set. They'll be able to do a lot of cool stuff with each other.
Yeah, it's not like he ever ended somebody's career early for kicking him straight in the head.
I've never got the Goldberg thing. I never cared for him. I didn't mind when he it was a huge moment when he won the world title from Hogan, of course, in Atlanta back in 98. He's, he was good in WCW. He's not for WWE, and I don't think that he is absolutely at all for this modern day wrestling era. I hated what he did to Kevin Owens' title reign, how he ended that so quickly, and he was able to become champion just because he wanted to be. And I'm not saying he wanted to be, like he came in and said, I want to be champion or I'm not coming back. I don't think that was the case, but I find it odd that they put the title on him, and Kevin Owens was having, I thought, a great heel run as a title holder. So, the booking is just really, really bad. So why would you put Goldberg in there against, or I'm sorry, his matches have been pretty bad. So why would you put him in there with Undertaker, who can really only go at this moment with guys who are able to carry their own weight in the match?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
where if Undertaker just pokes you, you're able to do the flip on your own. You don't have to do, he's not doing the lifting. It was a horrible match. It never should have happened. You're right. Both men nearly died. You and I happened to be actually face to face when you said, did you happen to see this? I said, oh no. And I looked it up, and
it's horrific.
Couldn't unsee it. Yeah,
it's
but
horrific.
It was a train wreck. You wanted to keep watching, and you didn't. But they did redeem themselves with the Undertaker. Well, both Goldberg and Undertaker. Goldberg came and did a quick spear to Dolph Ziggler at SummerSlam.
Like three of them.
Yeah. But Undertaker did team with Roman Reigns to take on Drew McIntyre and who was the other guy? I don't think it even mattered at this point. Corbin, probably? Huh.
Maybe.
I don't think it matters. Anyway, but it was a much better showing from the Undertaker.
It was actually really good. It was actually really good.
So again, why didn't you put someone else against him in Saudi Arabia other than another Hall of Famer or person who's been in retirement for years?
How about he just comes out as the American Badass, he chokeslams somebody, and then he rides his bike to the back?
Totally fine with that
Everybody
too.
will be happy. You get the pop, you get to laugh, and you don't have to see it.
It's no different than a Stone Cold Stunner.
Boom.
Yep. Uh, you know, speaking of boom, I just want to let you guys know. So, this is the Christmas episode. 1 week from today will be our New Year's episode. So we will not be able to do a countdown, unfortunately, with you for New Year's Eve. However, I have been told that if you put the Undisputed Era's theme on at 11:58. Did you see this?
I've seen it before, yeah.
At 11:58 and 58 seconds, put that music on, go into the kitchen, get yourself a beer. When you come back, at the exact time that the ball will drop to 1 and the new year will hit, will be the same time when you can say, boom. So, if you just want to be a wrestling fan for the night and make that a part of your official New Year's Eve countdown, I may actually do that. Trying to get the wife on board for that one.
Yeah, good luck with that. Tell me how it goes.
Yeah. So here we are. We are at the final segment of this program. We appreciate you guys hanging in with us today. And, it's the biggest talk, I think, of the entire year. And the best part of 2019 was Jon Moxley, the former Dean Ambrose, becoming a free agent, leaving the WWE umbrella after 7 or 8 years, maybe more. I know that he debuted in 2012 at Survivor Series. I'm not sure how long he was with NXT, so he had spent a long time with the WWE. Finally becomes a free agent, and the first thing, well, actually, I would love for you to, you have the entire history on this. I would love for you to take over on this one, ODM.
Well, the entire history is a bit over exaggerated, but I understand where you're going with this. He, like you had mentioned it earlier, that the Shield had one last match, and it was like on a Thursday night, like special event that they aired on the network. It was basically just a send off, and so his contract actually expired with WWE on April 30th of this year. The next day, May 1st, he posted the Jon Moxley vignette on Twitter and basically broke Twitter. It was unreal. It was a very symbolic vignette. If you haven't seen it, it was basically him breaking out of prison. There was a big dog there. There were some references to AEW in there as well. But he spent his own money out of pocket. That was not funded by AEW or anybody else. He funded that himself. He talked about it on Jericho's podcast, which he was on shortly after, which was a fantastic podcast. If you have not heard Dean Ambrose / Jon Moxley on Talk is Jericho's podcast, go check that out. It's phenomenal. There's one hilarious part where, if those of you who don't know, Jon Moxley is married to Renee Young. They must have done this at Jon Moxley's house because Renee walks by and you can hear Chris Jericho go, "Oh, hi, Renee." I'm sure that got her into a little shit at work. But anyway, so, he did. So he drops this vignette the first day of his official free agency. He does the Jericho podcast, and then he debuts in AEW at Double or Nothing, where he shows up at the end of the Jericho Omega match. And the pop was, would you say it was pop of the year? It has to be.
Oh, yeah, especially after he hit the ring and dropped both guys. When he went to the ropes, took that deep breath.
Oh, that was so breathe it in. Breathe it in. Yeah.
He's breathing it in, and then motherfucker. And the crowd was just, it was such an awesome moment. Way to end the pay-per-view. But I thought that's how they were going to end the pay-per-view, but it wasn't, because then he beat the shit out of Omega even more, who, by the way, just got done wrestling a number 1 contenders match against Chris Jericho. And about maybe 5 to 10 minutes into the match, Omega unfortunately suffered a broken nose in the match and had to finish not only that match, but also had to go through the rest of the post-match fight or beatdown by Moxley. So he's a pretty tough dude to go through that. I'll say that right now.
Oh, hell yeah.
Moxley made a huge impact and a huge pop. I would say probably close to pop of the year.
Yeah, it was great. And I think what just made it even better was Jericho's reaction because they obviously had that feud in WWE. So Jericho, turns around and what are you doing here? It was just great. Moxley kind of just shrugs, hits him with the dirty deeds, which he now calls the paradigm shift, which is
Yep.
phenomenal. Absolutely great. Because he cut a promo after that backstage where he talks about him being there is a paradigm shift. So it was just phenomenal. He did like that. Was it the Death Valley Driver off the top of that stack of chips into like that glass floor to Omega, and then he beats him up after Dynamite. I think it was the first week of Dynamite. He does the paradigm shift through a glass table to Omega.
Oh,
They
that
have
was
their
great.
unsanctioned match. And on top of all this, he goes to New Japan and he wins the IWGP US Championship. No big deal.
From Juice Robinson. And if you haven't checked that out, I think people got a little worried, man, what if he's not what if he's too soft like the WWE has made him? He's not a stiff wrestler like we like to see here in New Japan.
Right.
Moxley's bringing it to the table. He
Oh
had
yeah.
not only just with Juice Robinson, he was in the G1 and he had a stellar match with Ishii, Tomohiro Ishii. He had really, really great matches along the way. A funny one with Toru Yano. He did some great stuff in Japan, and I think that's all he wanted to do was just break out and just be himself. Just get out there and just be a wrestler, but be the original Jon Moxley, not this watered down lunatic fringe crap
Yeah.
that WWE had been shoving down our throats. But if you have the chance to watch just any match with him in New Japan, him and Juice Robinson, and I go, wow, it looks like he's biting him. That's cool. Normally, when someone does a bite on someone's head, they really are not technically biting him. Nope. Moxley grabbed a chunk of Juice Robinson's like forehead, like he brought like enough fat together of skin and bit him, and he was actually bleeding right above his eyebrow, I believe, is where he was biting him, and he really bit him. And I go, wow, like I like this. This is what I wanted to see. Like, and he said that when he left WWE, one thing that he talked about in the Talk of Jericho podcast, he talked about at Starrcast when he met with Jim Ross. He said that I was tired of saying the same things. When I get to Hell in a Cell, I'm going to eviscerate you. You are going to bleed. You're going to. No, I'm not. I'm not even allowed to do any of that stuff.
Yeah. Right.
I'm not doing anything like that. Now, he said you want an unsanctioned match, and the things that he did. I mean, the match with him and Omega, to me, made Omega that much stronger of a wrestler. I thought he was just a good bout machine, had classic matches. He went through some pain that night. I mean, they both did. They put their bodies on the line. Sure, the glass was, sugar glass, so it's that real fake, we knew it wasn't real glass because
Right.
no one's bleeding as bad. But that barbed wire bat, the barbed wire broom, those were real, man, because those were really cutting, and I
Barbed
loved it.
wire is
So I think,
yeah, barbed wire is barbed wire. I don't give a fuck what you say.
yeah, Moxley really has been a paradigm shift, and that's why he became number one for us. He really has been a game changer. However, the game's not changing if the product he goes to doesn't change with him. Would you
Absolutely.
agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they have to, I've said it earlier, it's like they're just doing the WCW booking from Nitro the early days. See a lot of parallels, I'm not talking quite the Russo days. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking
No,
about,
you're talking about like early 96, 97
yeah,
ish. Yeah.
absolutely. And, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. There's something that makes these guys special. That's what they need to embrace. Not just, they have to be able to separate, hey, this stuff is really cool, we think, versus what do the people want? And they're listening to a small contingent, I think, that want the bullshit, the silliness, you know, as Cornette puts it, the indie mud show shit. So
Yeah.
no, it's not going to
One
continue.
thing. we talked about earlier Omega being booked like crap. Omega, the Bucks, and Cody are all executive vice presidents of All Elite Wrestling, working side by side with Tony Khan. The only thing I can think of is that they are purposely all booking themselves to lose because they're showing we didn't start this company because we wanted to take over and win. Bucks, the only title shot they really had was the other night and they lost. They haven't really been in a title picture.
Yep.
Omega is not in a title picture at all. So maybe, and of course, Cody took himself out of the title picture. So maybe it's more of a selfless thing that they're doing. However, again, what we talked about earlier, this is not what brought you to the dance. The whole reason AEW got ignited was everybody was excited about what you did at All In. And then you followed up with Double or Nothing and All Out. Everybody was ready for Dynamite to be huge. The only good things that Dynamite has actually had as of recent, to be honest with you, are Moxley, Pac, and Jericho. That's it. Everything else has been okay.
Yep, agreed.
Moxley was, again, a huge acquisition. I think that him being addition to the roster, they better capitalize on it right now. It looks like they're pushing for a Jericho-Moxley match. Cool. I'm for it. Problem is that wrong guy is holding the title if you want to have Moxley go in there.
Right.
He was fighting Omega, fine. Cody, fine. Pac, fine. Jericho's too good a heel, and he's not a babyface enough that it's a believable match. It's just two bad guys, and how do you book who loses? I mean, who loses technically cleanly? You know what I mean? And both guys coming out strong. So I'm not really a fan of Moxley going after Jericho right now, but I do want them to capitalize on Moxley as soon as possible because it's probably the hottest commodity you have next to Jericho and Omega.
Sure, they could even just go the route of, you know what, right now Moxley's just ready to just tear through people, which is they've kind of alluded to a couple weeks ago, where you could just have them basically, not even necessarily an open challenge every week, but just, hey, I'm just going to walk around, I'm going to find people, and I'm going to beat the shit out of them. And then he can get to a point, once you get your bookings straight, I mean, hopefully they do, and you could have Moxley say, you know what, enough is enough. I've gone through everybody. I've proven what I can do. Now I'm coming for the title. That would be the thought in my head.
He's brought a different feel to AEW that was the difference maker in something like an ECW back in the day, or even Ring of Honor. And I'm not just necessarily talking about the swearing, but he just makes it a more believable, real character. And yeah, actually, I just read an article the other day. It's funny how in 1 year's time, the amount of swearing that actually goes on in all wrestling promotions, you know, from Lashley and Strowman going through the Titantron or whatever, and Corey Graves yelling, "Holy shit!"
That was great.
But then you also have on the first Dynamite, first or second, you know, Jericho saying the booking was shit over there. Adam Page saying we're gonna do some cowboy shit. It's funny how much swearing is actually being pushed in the last couple of, at least the last year. I find that funny. That was a side step to the conversation there. Anyway,
it happens.
You know, like we said, Moxley, he had to take number one. I think that overall he was the best part of 2019 because everyone knew his contract was coming to an end. I want to say by like January or February. January. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I remember like Royal Rumble time, and I said he's not going to be.
It was, yeah, because they actually announced it.
Yep, they did. That's right. And then I think he fought
Drew McIntyre.
Yes, no, but I was going to say I'm pretty sure. Did he not get eliminated in the Rumble by Nia Jax?
Yeah, because they started.
Like he was going to feud with a woman.
They started teasing that where she was slapping him around.
Because I thought it was funny. I go, wait, you just announced that he's going to be leaving the company. Now you're going to have him fight Nia Jax. I go, wow, they really don't like him.
Yep.
But like you said, man, May 1st, everything changed. The game changed when May 1st happened. And a lot of great things have happened with AEW. You know, them announcing that they are going to start the promotion. When did that happen? Was that last year, or was it in January that it happened? When did they announce the promotion in Jacksonville?
That's a good question.
I'm pretty sure I want to say it was January, somewhere around there. But, you know.
Yeah, I'll have to take your word for it.
We'll figure that out. But anyway, here's my point. I don't think that even that was as big as someone like Moxley leaving the WWE, because he could have been a made man there with money.
Yeah.
He could have just signed on the dotted line. He said he didn't even open up the contract. He didn't see the price. He didn't know if it was more, less, the same. All he did was just say, nope, not even opening it.
Good on him.
And I got to say this, man. Like, I work a different job than my wife. We don't work the same kind of job. However, if we did, and I was in a company with her, and I left, I couldn't imagine leaving her there in that company by herself, knowing that things are going to be said about me, or that she's got to deal with the flack or the repercussion of me leaving, you know, if I was a big commodity to that company, let's say. My point is that I think that that's how bad he wanted out of that contract and how bad he wanted out of that company. He left his wife behind in that fucking company.
Seriously.
You know, and that's huge. So I'm glad that he's in AEW. I'm hoping that he does something really, really major. He actually is going to be a part of Wrestle Kingdom next week. He is going to be taking on Lance Archer in a Texas death match for the U.S. Championship, because it's a title he never lost. He had the staph infection in his elbow that forced him to not only drop that U.S. title, but he also was forced to not fight Kenny Omega at All Out, and that's how we got Pac versus Omega. So he's had a big year, but now he's going to start it even bigger by going over to Japan and being a part of their annual January 4th event. And this year, it's not just January 4th, it's January 5th. The first time ever, Wrestle Kingdom will be a 2-night extravaganza. And next week, you're definitely going to want to check in with us here on the podcast on New Year's Day, because we are going to give you our predictions for the 2-night showdown, because we know that right now we have a couple of matches that are going to lead into that night. We have right now Okada and Ibushi taking on each other for the world title, and we have for the Intercontinental title, Jay White versus Naito. The winner of those two matches are going to face off belt for belt in the main event on January 5th. And the other two guys who lose will face each other. So we're going to give you our predictions next week. Definitely stick in and or stick around with us and give us your predictions if you can as well. Check us out on Facebook. We thank you for listening to us, of course, on YouTube. I do want to leave you with a match of the week. Last week, I hope you did get a chance to check out Do Fixer and Blood Generation. I know ODM has. I know he said it's one of his favorite matches, too.
It's a banger.
But it is. But you know what? In honor of ODM and our number one unfortunate worst topic, I do want to put you guys into a better mindset before you head into the new year. I want to talk about the first Hell in a Cell. That's Bad Blood, 1997. We have The Undertaker taking on Shawn Michaels. And I don't want to spoil it for you because it's only a couple of days old. But this is also the debut of Kane. The Big Red Monster shows up after months of Paul Bearer threatening that his brother was alive. Huge match. Why I'm bringing that up? Undertaker, unfortunately, was our number one worst thing of the year by being a part of that match with Goldberg. But also the Hell in a Cell was a part of our worst part of the year. So let's rectify that. Let's give you the very first one. This was also a 5-star classic that was ranked by Dave Meltzer. I think well-deserved. It's my favorite one. A lot of people are big fans of Undertaker and Mankind for the shock of him being thrown off of that cell. A lot of people are also fans of the six-pack challenge that they had with all the guys in 2000 Armageddon. But for my money, this is the best Hell in a Cell match of all time. And because ODM is such a huge Deadman fan, that's why we're choosing that one for this week. So hopefully you even get a chance to watch that, ODM.
Hell yeah, I'm definitely going to rewatch that.
We'll fire it up. So we really appreciate you guys listening to us once again here on the top of Wrestling Podcast. Next week, we are going to be bringing you another top topic. It'll be our first one for the year of 2020. Get ready. We really appreciate everyone checking in each and every week. We've had a lot of great traction on Facebook, a lot of people even joining in conversations. We hope you continue to do so. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and of course, right here on YouTube each and every week where you will be able to hear this show. And I am the Professor Rex Youngblood. With me, as always, is ODM. And this week, ODM has just 4 words for you.
Merry Christmas, your marks.
You're not mine. This difference helps me cross the